Factoring a four-term polynomial. 14x to the third plus 8x squared plus 7x plus 4. So we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. We'll look at the first terms, 14x to the third plus 8x squared, and we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 14 and 8 is 2. The greatest common factor of x cubed and x squared is x squared, because x squared can be evenly divided into both terms. So x squared. So 14x to the third divided by 2x squared gives me a 7x. 8x squared divided by 2x squared is a 4. I'm going to find the greatest common factor of my second group here, 7x plus 4. Well, the greatest common factor is a 1, and normally we don't factor out a 1, but when we factor by grouping, we do. So we're going to have plus the greatest common factor of 1 times 7x plus 4. So now I've taken these four terms and written them into two terms. This is my first term. This is my second term. So now I'm going to look at the two terms and see what I can divide evenly into both of those terms. Well, this has a 7x plus 4, and this is a 7x plus 4. So I can divide that evenly into both terms, so that is the greatest common factor, 7x plus 4. So if I divide 7x plus 4 and 7x plus 4, I'm left with 2x squared plus 1. Okay? So now I'm going to look at my first factor, 7x plus 4. I can't factor that any further. And 2x squared plus 1, I can't factor that any further. So those are my factors. Number 2, 14x to the 3 minus 35x squared plus 16x minus 40. So to factor by grouping, we're going to group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. And now we're going to find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 14 and 35 is 7. The greatest common factor of x cubed and x squared is x squared, because x squared can be evenly divided into both terms. 14x cubed divided by 7x squared is 2x. Negative 35x squared divided by 7x squared is negative 5. I'm going to factor my second pairs group. 16x minus 40, the greatest common factor is 8. And that leaves me 2x minus 5. So now I have this term plus this term. And the greatest common factor of those two terms is 2x minus 5. And if I factor that out, that leaves me 7x squared plus 8. So now I'm going to look at my terms, my factors. 2x minus 5, I can't factor anything else out of that. 7x squared plus 8, I can't factor anything out of that. So that becomes, these are my factors. Number 3, 8x cubed plus 12x squared minus 2x minus 3. So we're going to group the first two terms together. And we have a minus here. So it's easier if we take this minus, instead of minus 2x, we call that plus a negative 2x. and we put that negative inside the parens. Now we're going to pull out the greatest common factor of 8 and 12 is 4. Of x cubed and x squared is x squared. And that's going to leave me a 2x plus 3. All right, I have a minus 2x minus 3. The greatest common factor is a minus 1. So 2x plus 3. So now I'm looking at this is my first term plus this is my second term. What is the greatest common factor of those two terms? 2x plus 3. If I factor it out, that leaves me a 4x squared minus 1. I look at my first term, my first factor, 2x plus 3. I can't factor anything out of that. My second factor is 4x squared minus 1. Well, that's a perfect square. The first term is a perfect square, and the last term is a perfect square. So I can continue factoring that. The square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 1 is 1. There is no middle term, so I need a factor that's 2x plus 1 and a factor that's 2x minus 1. Oops, and don't forget our friend 2x plus 3. So this 4-term polynomial has 3 binomial factors. And our final example, number 4, 18x cubed plus 45x squared minus 8x minus 20. So I group the first two terms, and now I have minus 8x, which I'm going to convert to a plus a negative 8x. 18 and 45 have 9 in common. X cubed and x squared have x squared in common. 18x cubed divided by 9x squared is 2x. 45x squared divided by 9x is plus 5. 9x squared is plus 5. All right. Now we have a negative 8x minus 20, so we can pull out a minus 4, which will leave it 2x plus 5. So we have this term plus this term. The greatest common factor is 2x plus 5. So we factored that out of that term and that out of that term. And now I'm left with a 9x squared minus 4. So let's look at our factors. 2x plus 5 can't be factored anymore. 9x squared minus 4. Well, that can be. It's one of my special cases. I can take the square root of the first term, which is 3x, the square root of the last term, which is 2. There's no middle term, so I need a plus 3x plus 2 and a 3x minus 2. Oh yeah, and don't forget about 2x plus 5. He was a factor. So again, we have 3 factors that are binomials. And that's factoring a 4-term polynomial.